At this time, I would like to welcome Sarah Reginelli, President of Capitalize Albany Corporation, Melli Rose, Director of Albany Special Events and Cultural Affairs, Nala Woodward, Albany City Clerk, and Chris Spencer, Albany Director of Planning, to the front for the next presentation.
I'm Sarah Reginelli. I'm President of Capitalize Albany Corporation. I'm also CEO of the city's Industrial Development Agency. What you heard from Skylar this morning was to sort of prove out the fact that we need the Capital Center in this market. You heard from the last panel proving out that it's actually happening. You get to see the construction in the ground. And what I've been asked to open up with is proving out that there's actually a lot going on surrounding this Capital Center that creates an environment that visitors want to be in. The first thing that I'll start with is actually a number. Our current activity just surrounding this Capital Center, just in the downtown market here in Albany, we have $250 million. I like to use the B instead. It's $250 million of current activity. That's unprecedented. It really sort of spin around a number of different projects that start to total up to this, but really it's because the public sector was able to sort of weather the storm while the market was down, continuing to create investment, continuing to generate buzz, but the market's picked back up. We've been rebounding, and projects that have languished in the past are now coming online, bringing 10 years of vision to fruition down here. We are bringing hundreds and hundreds of residential units online. We have headquarters, bank headquarters, moving back into downtown Albany, a traditional sector that had been moving out to suburban markets in years past. And we've had destination retail starting, and as they're locating here, they're seeing their numbers pick up because it's the cachet of having a downtown address. Again, it's been strategic, this growth. $250 million doesn't happen overnight and without a vision. We've been really working through a concerted effort with our partners to remove structural and environmental barriers to development, to create and leverage new sources to stimulate these projects, to streamline the process, to bring these projects into the ground. And we've been matching catalyst sites with the right developer, the right resources, and at the right time to make these projects happen in Albany. What we've been using for the past really 24 months now is our Impact Downtown Albany strategy as a guide. And really what this did was outline our market potential, outline the catalyst sites, and really have us have a concerted strategy to go after this growth. What some of you may have seen before is really the breakdown into the three market sectors of the potential that's out there, the potential that everyone in this room is chasing after. And we always start with residential, which seems strange if you don't know the ins and outs of our market. Residential growth is our strongest growth potential here in the capital region. And that's because of local factors, but also national trends where we're seeing millennials and boomers coming back to the urban core. They want to live in a livable, walkable, vibrant urban environment. And we're seeing that here. We're seeing 97% occupancy rates. We have the potential to have 100 to 290 units of market rate residential built new in our downtown core before we hit saturation. So we're seeing this growth. We have 300 units underway right now. Our rents are between $1.40, $1.60 a square foot, and what that means is really very good. You don't always see it if you're not either looking for an apartment in downtown Albany or if you're not looking at the upper stories to see lights on at night in these windows. One of the best stats, I think, is that 3/4 of this market is from outside Albany. This is not sort of stealing from other neighborhoods in the city. These are people coming in from the region, from really around the world, and we're seeing reverse commuters going up the Northway to work up at Global Foundries in Malta. It also has the greatest spin-off effect, so don't ignore this residential market as part of the greater picture for hospitality in Albany. These are the faces that you see on the street welcoming you to Albany, giving you directions, and being able to point out the favorite coffee shop. Our commercial market is really, it's an interesting dynamic. There is not a ton of growth potential for office because the size of floor plates are shrinking. You're fitting more people into smaller spaces. But we are seeing that B and C space converted to residential, taken off the market, and firms going to cool space. They want to be, again, in a downtown urban setting, but with new, modern amenities. And so we're seeing a lot of whether it's office furniture supply stores, it's interior designers being able to look to the Albany market and really make a niche here to convert these older spaces into cool space that technology firms want. Retail is what you see, right? It's what generates buzz. It's what you see on the streets. We are a large downtown. And so when you really look at our storefronts, we have been seeing interesting niche destination retail starting up here. And this is our greatest potential at this point. This is the market that we need to tap into. This is also the market that's going to help serve the convention business at the Capitol Center. What does all that mean, though, and why does everyone sitting in this room really care? If we were to build out our full market potential that was uncovered by Impact Downtown Albany, sure, the number on the bottom that you see, that $465 million, that's the construction total. That's a huge number. That's a great number to build all these projects. But the number that actually matters is that $400 million annually injected into the local economy. What does that mean? That means if you have a new business locating to serve the residential population that buys produce, it buys from Freihofers gets to expand, they get to add employment. Those households that are now employed by Freihofers, they spend in the local economy. So this is just a local capture of local firms that would be serving that build out $400 million annually into our economy. Think what that does for your individual business here, and think what that does on the street for the visitor as they come in, really wanting that overall downtown experience. The gaps are the hard part, though, right? So it's easy to say you have that huge market potential. How do you get there? And so that's really what we've been focusing on, designing new programs, designing new incentives to be able to help build out this growth. Ensure that we're using resources like our Industrial Development Agency responsibly, but also using them fully so that we can incentivize these large development projects to happen. Also using things like our sales tax exemption to be able to get businesses to build out and fit out their space in a way that meets the current demand. You'll hear from city staffers too, what they're doing in their departments to help bridge this gap and connect the dots, because it really is all about making sure that those streetscape improvements are made, the incentives are in place, the policies, regulations, and structural barriers are taken down to be able to get ourselves ready for the growth that I just talked about. But that really leads to, what can you do? The first thing I'll start off with is this. Everyone in this room, you are the city's greatest ambassadors. Word of mouth is the most powerful thing. We heard a couple of weeks back a clinical psychiatrist come in and talk about the need for sort of breaking the lie for urban revitalization. And so in this room, it's sort of a little silly, but I'm going to ask you to do it. If everyone can think just one positive thing about Albany, to sort of really help talk about all of the great things going on. We have $250 million of growth happening right now, just as we're coming out of a recession. We have huge potential for growth. We have national trends in our favor. We have interesting local businesses opening. And we live in a region that has 3 really unique, interesting downtowns surrounded by a tremendous amount of assets that we can enjoy on weekends and day trips. There are great things happening here. You need to be able to be a partner in removing that risk factor of the unknown. If you're talking about how great it is to live, work, and play here, that message gets out. It helps take away sort of the mystery for new businesses locating or looking to expand. That word of mouth is really the most powerful tool that we have to be able to stimulate growth. The next piece is to really adapt to a changing market. Keep your eye on changing trends and tailor your business plans to meet the need. The pie chart that's up here for those of you in the back of the room, you don't need to sort of know numbers and really see, but the blue is what everyone has been targeting. These are the daytime workers within a walking distance of the Capitol Center. That's a huge piece of the market, but that's only you're missing a third of the market by just focusing on that group. The orange piece, that's our growth area. We talked about residential being a growth area. We talked about the visitors that are going to be coming in to visit the Capitol Center and the cultural heritage tourism opportunities in Albany. Overnight visitors that are staying here because they're here for work, or they're here for play, or they're here on their way somewhere else. And then folks that we call day trippers that are just coming in because they want to attend an event or just be able to have dinner in downtown on a typical night. That's the group that's growing. That's a third of our market. And those people are not the same people who are here during the daytime. If they are, they're not doing the same things. They're not coming to Empire State Plaza to have lunch on the concourse. They want to be out on city streets. They want to be active. And they're looking for that vibrancy. So looking at your business plans and see, are you capturing that third of the market that's growing? Another piece is looking at what we don't have here yet or don't have enough of. So we looked at a gap analysis in terms of retailers that we should be attracting, should be targeting. This is going to be hard for the back of the room to see, but the first is upscale dining. When I say upscale dining, Angelo, you heard from him already, upscale dining, absolutely, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But it's also fast casual in an upscale pace. So, think of Chipotle as an upscale fast casual dining. Those are the types of businesses, restaurants that would be looking to see. Everything else is really including that about creating an experience, really bringing a vibe to the area. Third Place Coffee, where you can have your latte and have your Wi-Fi and sit there and people watch and get your work done while you're taking a break from your convention. Moderate boutiques, diversified nightlife, crossover food and retail, a great barbecue place that also sells leatherworking goods. Those crossover experience things are in high demand. A specialty grocer, I'm not going to not say the word grocery in this presentation, Mayor. Certainly a destination that has specialty goods that can focus on high margin items, be able to be a lunch place during the day to capture that big blue section, but also flex to be a nighttime destination as well, would be huge. Outdoor sporting goods, millennial/hipster variety stores, that again is all creating an experience, and it's about having the authentic Albany experience. Local goods, local farms, that's the focus, really focusing on being able to come down and have a vibe and a feel. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Melli. Are you up first? Great.
So again, I am Melli Rose, Director for Special Events and Cultural Affairs at the City of Albany. And we recently redefined our mission to not only include special events where we plan, produce, and present high-quality events that are free and open to the public, but we are also expanding to connect the City of Albany's diverse cultural assets with attendees via our large-scale events. I chose to focus on large-scale events for this presentation, mostly because we have so many folks coming into town that it's important to understand that they are here and they are ready to do other things in addition to our events. This is an example of how many people you see at Alive at 5 and at Riverfront Park. How can we get to these folks? How can we let these folks know that there's a lot more to do across the river? All they have to do is cross that pedestrian bridge, and there's a whole world, there's a whole city of wonderful opportunities and cultural assets that we have to offer. Large-scale community functions inspire pride in people and a sense of place. A great event experience will create a lasting impression and ultimately a reason to return. And Albany is in a very unique position. We are a city that offers many established events free and open to the public. I encourage you to look up other cities and see how many free events they offer their residents and visitors. And I don't know how much of a comparison it'll be because we have many of those events available. Non-ticketed events such as Tulip Fest, Alive at 5, Jazz Fest, co-sponsored events that we participate in, Capitol Pride, Latin Fest, Juneteenth, or even the Empire State Plaza summer concerts. They're all just to name a few. They bring tens of thousands of attendees to our city every year, residents and visitors. These are just a few examples of how Albany already celebrates its diversity. And free is good, as you all know. These local events give anyone on any budget exposure to local parks, history, culture, music, arts, and entertainment. They provide an easy diversion for conference attendees, residents, and local workforce. They're an opportunity to plan a day or evening around. If you go to a convention, you typically, what's the first thing you do? You want to know what's going on when you're done with your work day. If you have a minute, you might be able to, go down and see a concert or grab a bite to eat. And this is a great opportunity to plan something around, or even stay in town an extra day if you find out, your favorite band is playing on Thursday and you might have been scheduled to leave town on Wednesday. There is proof that when a quality act is booked, the results filter into a domino effect. And we saw that at Tulip Festival when we had a wonderful lineup this year, but we had a lot of people enjoying Lark Street right after the event, and it was nice to see that excitement. And these large-scale events are not just offering they're not just offerings for concert or festival attendees. These are an opportunity for everybody in this room. They hand us a captive audience. What else can they go see? What else can they do? They're a vehicle. They are a free ride. And I don't know if anybody got my Edgar Winter reference, but he is going to be at Alive at 5 on July 23rd. Thank you very much. Events provide an available audience, and a lot of our programming this year for the city is geared toward millennials, because they are looking for those day trips. They will travel great distances to go see a band or a concert, and especially when we're offering them free, they've got a little extra disposable income to hopefully spend at your establishments, your hotels. Again, this is an opportunity for everyone in this room, retail, restaurant owners, colleges, realtors, hotels, banks, law firms, you name it, nonprofits, local organizations, and many other businesses, our cultural institutions, historic gems. It's an opportunity for everybody here. You can showcase your menu, your merchandise, your mission, your overall message at our events, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Each attendee will leave our events, any event in Albany, ticketed or non-ticketed, with an opinion of their experience here. And each of us can be the reason they want to come back. We are all responsible for their positive experience and their memories when they were here. So how can we connect those dots? How can we connect these people and answer their questions, the who, the what, where, when, why, how, when they're at our events, how they can get to your establishments or your mission. So you can connect with these folks in a number of different ways. You can contact my office, which is the special events office in City Hall, and we can point you in the right direction on how to get your flyers out at our events. We have opportunities for tabling and information booths for many of your events. If you don't have a budget for a sponsorship, which is the next point here, we can offer many suggestions on how to best get the word out. These are public parks. You can come down and flyer about your mission. Also, volunteerism is a great way for you to explain your mission at a low cost. You can bring your staffers down. It builds a great team spirit when you come down and you can volunteer in a group and represent your company, and also establish that pride at the event. Also, a way I didn't put on here, but to collaborate with other organizations. If you have no marketing budget, I know a lot of us are struggling with the economy these days, but there's a lot of new ways to collaborate, and my office can definitely assist with how to connect you with other organizations that may have similar missions and exposure at those events. Most importantly, you got to stay in touch with your local event resources. Our website, albanyevents.org, but also our city website. Obviously, the visitor center, which most of you are already in touch with. Business improvement districts, albany.com is a good resource for a calendar. And also New York State OGS Events has a website too. You can keep up to date with those events. Make sure you're in the loop on when they're happening. Again, just to elaborate on this, events are a positive experience if they're run successfully, and we all have seen a lot of growth recently, and it's an exciting time for everybody in the room. And I just want to say thank you for letting me talk a little bit about our events, and I'll pass it on to Chris at this point. Thank you.
Well, I'm here to talk about a very exciting topic for everybody here, zoning. Probably not as exciting as special events or food or all the great restaurants and different things within the city of Albany. But nonetheless, it's a very important topic because it really sets the stage and allows the different kinds of developments that we need in the city. So we're embarking on a process right now in the city of Albany. It's a 2-year process to completely overhaul the zoning and all our land development and regulation tools that go along with that, really to help us renew our city and reimagine what it can be and get reinvestment in our commercial areas. So our zoning right now is about 50 years old. It's completely out of touch with what's going on today, and it just has not kept pace in terms of the types of uses that we need. So what we want to do is create a zoning and a land development that creates that fairness, that predictability, and really certainty for residents, for businesses, and for developers. Because when somebody's looking to make an investment decision within the city of Albany, whether it's a business or a different kind of development, what they want to know is what can they do with their piece of property, or does that property fit what their business plan is? How long does it take to get through that process? What are the rules? Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, and that makes it very difficult as developers come in to get beyond that. So that's one of the reasons we're going to be looking at our rezoning, creating that fair, predictable process. Also, making sure that our development is consistent with the 2030 plan. That is the city's vision. That's that was done in 2013, our city's first comprehensive plan. So it's important that our zoning is consistent with that vision. We want to protect and rebuild and enhance our neighborhoods. A lot of our neighborhoods are in great shape. A lot of them need some work, and a lot of them need some major rebuilding. But in all those cases, we want to make sure that the zoning not only allows that, but promotes that. Again, that shared vision, and it goes beyond just the comprehensive plan, but really understanding in certain areas where we have broken down urbanism and a lack of walkability, what that vision is going to be and how that zoning can create and comply with that vision. We think that the zoning is really going to help us unleash the development potential. There's a lot of development potential within the city where developers have come into the city, they've looked at different areas, and the zoning doesn't match up what they want to do. And so oftentimes they just walk away because it's too frustrating or too much of a risk to take on. So we think by clarifying the rules, streamlining that process, we're going to unleash that development potential. And also, it will help people understand what it is that the city is looking for in different areas. It's not going to be just about what the city doesn't want, but it is what the city wants. So we want to protect those places we love, but it's also about creating new places, creating those new places that, where it's something down the road where we're going to want to protect that as well. Not just about building buildings or creating different developments, but really creating places, how those buildings relate to the place, how that entire environment works together, and how that creates that sense of place that we've talked about quite a bit today already. And we've got a great team in terms of doing the rezoning. Great code writers. We've got people who are real placemakers, urban designers, graphic designers, sustainability experts, and all of those people are working together to make this zoning work for the city of Albany. So as we do this, we're going to be looking at a number of rezoning tools. One of the things we're trying to do is make sure that we're going from that sort of very heavy text written zoning that's hard to understand to a very rich, graphically intense zoning that allows people to look at it and make decisions much quicker than they currently can. Looking at neighborhood typologies, making sure that the zoning actually fits the neighborhood, that it's appropriate to the scale, it's appropriate to everything that's going around. And that's important both in the residential neighborhoods, but also the business neighborhoods. So we make sure that we're matching that character and getting the right kinds of development within that. Beyond the downtown, we have sort of a large frontier, which the warehouse district. It's a very active area with a lot of businesses that have been there for hundreds of years, some of them. Very important and vital to keep those businesses. But there's also a lot of buildings within that area that are no longer good in terms of the kinds of development people are looking for today or in the kinds of industry that people are looking for. And there's a lot of interest in trying to find some new ways to do that. So one of the tools we're going to be looking at is a form-based code. We just finished a workshop down in the warehouse district. It was a 4-day workshop, really to get the public's input on what that area might be, what that vision could be for the warehouse district, and then to begin to code that area and understand where those different kinds of dynamic uses can happen. So here's some of the results from that. You know, looking at an area like this, you've got a public park, you've got a bank on the left, or a building that was a bank, and now is a restaurant or a tavern. And that's the kind of thing that you'll find in the warehouse district. There is a lot of building stock that is adaptable to a number of different uses, and that's what's exciting about it. So if you look at how the consultants looked at this area, is to take that park and then understand what that enclosure could be and what the different kinds of buildings that could go in and around there, and imagine how that starts to look in a build-up scenario. And that's really what we're doing down in the warehouse district. And so you can see different types of scenarios, different build-outs. And these are all these opportunities for future businesses, for exciting things to happen down there in a concentrated way and in a way that's responsible, that does not push out the existing uses and the existing industrial development that's already down there. You know, and if you look at it, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the building here, the Argus building, but it's really about envisioning what could be there, you know, and in these historic buildings, they're not just purposely built buildings for a single use. As you start to think about how they can be reused, you can imagine a building like this as residential. It could become a hotel. It could be all sorts of things, businesses. It could be high-tech incubator spaces. So it's really about looking at that entire area as a area of opportunity. So not just the warehouse district, but throughout the city. Those are the things we're going to be looking at, making sure that development process is easy, that it's fair, it's predictable, and people can understand how to get through it and create these new opportunities or take advantage of them. So one of the ways anybody here, if you're interested in keeping in touch with this process, we're about 6 months into this 2-year process. We've created a website called rezonealbany.com. If anybody's interested, you can go on the website. You can make comments to get your, talk about what kind of issues you're having with the zoning or what the development tools that haven't been working. And you can also put in your email and get updates to any of the kinds of things that we're doing throughout the city as part of this redevelopment and rezoning project. So that's the best way to stay in touch with that. And you can also call the city and get more information. So I'll turn it over to Nala. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for being here. My name is Nala Woodward, the city clerk for the city of Albany. And my office works closely with special events. And that's one of the first things that I'm speaking about today are the special events in my office. But before I even get to talking about that, as we're talking about tourism, and the staff in my office, in a sense, are ambassadors to tourism and encouraging as we, process marriage licenses. And a lot of the marriage licenses that we process annually are from people that are from out of town. They're coming from within the region as well as out of state that are looking to get married in the city of Albany or looking to get their marriage license through the city of Albany through domestic partnerships. And a lot of times they're always asking us, well, where can we go to eat? And we usually try to encourage them to stay local and provide directions on places that they can go within the city of Albany. And getting into special events, annually the city of Albany approves approximately 250 requests for special events. And these special events vary. And, we a lot of times work with the applicants, the business owners, the event organizers to ensure that their events, that we fully capture the details of their events and pass them on to the special event committee. And we work as, kind of the middleman to, going back and forth if an interview is needed to ensure that these events, are a success throughout the city of Albany. Special events range from large group picnics in the park, competitive obstacle course races through downtown. We do a lot of block parties throughout the city, 5K races and walks, sports tournaments, and parades, just to name a few. Each year, the city of Albany permits events including the Lark Festival, a newer event, which is one of my favorites, I shouldn't say that, but Upper Madison Street Fair, the Park Playhouse, which is another free event that's open to many throughout the public, and having relationships with a lot of these, for example, Owen Smith, who oversees the Park Playhouse, having relationships with them, and we know him when he comes into our office, it allows, for a smoother process, and there's less barricades or barriers to events moving through the process. The Mississippi Day and Carnival on the Hill are among many events that we approve through our office. Another area, and we're looking at working to further develop our cafe permits. Annually, we approve approximately 80 to 90 cafe permits, and they vary throughout the city. Again, us having a strong relationship with businesses helps the process go a lot smoother. Most restaurants offer outdoor dining in the warmer months, are looking for and we feel that tourists are looking for outdoor dining in warm, fresh, inviting atmospheres. Cafe permits are located, or cafes are located throughout the city of Albany, allowing for both exposure to an urban setting as well as cafes in backyard and garden-like settings. The city clerk's office issues licenses to many great Albany restaurants, including cafes, bistros, pubs, and other venues with outdoor patios and courtyards, perfect for dining in the fresh air. So, I was just talking primarily today about the special events in the cafes that we, offer, and I think if each of us looks as an ambassador to tourism and hospitality, as Sarah was saying, taking those positive images, and when you think about the city and the region, and just try to be an ambassador to encouraging and promoting tourism, and then we together, one step at a time, can make the city of Albany and the region a better place to visit and to live. Thank you.
I just want to elaborate on that with Nala and the city clerk's office. The special events office is actually collaborating with the clerk's office, now offering the rotunda of City Hall. We are encouraging nonprofits to use this space, to rent that space and spread their mission, especially, obviously, City of Albany nonprofits. But, you can find out more about that on albanyevents.org or the city website, and we can point you in the right direction on how to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. At this time, we'll move into a question and answer session. Yes. And I'd like to repeat that question for those in the back of the room. The question was regarding land-based. Many of the events we're discussing are land-based events, and the question was related to what are we going to do about river-based events?
That's a great question. I think in terms of how the city has looked at events in the past, we've been fortunate to produce large-scale and small-scale events for many years now. But that is a great idea and a great opportunity for us to look into, especially with collaborating with local organizations, and we're doing that more than ever before. So I welcome any of those ideas to schedule a meeting with myself or my staff. We're easily accessible in City Hall, and welcome any opportunity to discuss collaborating. Obviously, resources are slim, but when we all put our minds together, we can create large-scale events at a low cost.
And just, if you don't mind, just to jump in there, I know Mayor Sheehan mentioned earlier really using the waterfront of the riverfront as a resource. Last year, we approved three events on the river. Two were regattas, and one was working with the national sponsor, a scholar. They did a rubber ducky race on the river. We really, and then also with a lot of events that are where residents and businesses come in and look to go to Washington Park. And obviously Washington Park is stressed because they have a number of different events there throughout the year, and trying to give relief to residents to live directly along the park. We've then pushed and tried to encourage events to go to the riverfront, which also allows for the spillover after events, to encourage business and patronizing business downtown in the bid improvement district.
And I may be the person to answer this question. Great question. We do have the Albany Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have a website, albany.org, and we have an event calendar that goes beyond just the city limits or the county limits. And if you're a visitor in town, you go to albany.org and you're on a mobile device, it will automatically take you to our mobile site, so it's mobile friendly. And then thinking larger term, I Love New York just released a new website last year, and you can break that down by region where you're visiting. So you can look at the capital Saratoga region, and they also just released a new app this year where it's all mobile friendly, fully responsive site.